Hi, I'm Carrie, and this is Cooking with Carrie. Today, I'm going to show you how to make pasta primavera from our book, Hungry for Health, which you can find on our website at BeatCancer.Org. So, pasta primavera is basically a bunch of yummy vegetables put together with pasta and a tomato sauce. It can be a tomato sauce, and sometimes it's just olive oil and maybe a toasted nut like an almond or a pine nut. Today I'm going to make it with a tomato sauce, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, we're going to prepare the vegetables. I'm going to be using just a variety of vegetables I had in the fridge. I'm going to use some broccoli first, and I like to make the florets pretty small. I like to use my kitchen shears because they work great just for cutting them right off the stem. I'll saute these first because broccoli takes a little bit longer, as most of you know, to soften in the pan. And sometimes what I've done also is I have taken all these vegetables and I've roasted them in the oven about 400 for maybe 20 minutes. You can also do that if that's easier for you. But I like to get the florets pretty small when I'm not roasting them in the oven. Today I'm going to saute them on the stove. These look pretty good. Okay. We'll put those aside because we'll cook those a little bit first by themselves. And I think I'll put some peppers in there. Now normally I would be using onions and garlic. That's usually, and according to our recipe, that is a required ingredient. However, as with cooking, you can do whatever you want. If that doesn't agree with you, if that's, ingredient isn't something that you enjoy or your family doesn't enjoy, you can change it. And so today, I'm leaving out the onions and garlic for a couple of our family members. So in addition to these, to the ingredients here, you might want to add onions if you like them. I'm doing red peppers and yellow because they're really pretty. When it's all finished, you'll see. Okay, I've got some celery in here and a carrot. I've already washed all these ingredients, so they're ready to go. Okay. When you are sauteing these vegetables, and again, you can add whatever vegetables you'd like, you want to take into account how long different vegetables take. So, for instance, as I said, the broccoli, I'm gonna saute that first to get a little bit longer of a cook time. Onions would be the same. And then you'd add in, I'm going to add in these ingredients, the peppers and the carrots and the celery, because they take about the same. A zucchini doesn't take as long, so I'm going to add that one in last. This will keep you from having to use several different pans or cooking methods. Sometimes you might think, oh, I better steam those, I better steam that broccoli, and oh, I better, cook the zucchini, not very much, and then you've got 3 pans. This is what I used to do. I found an easier way to do it. Just adding them into the same pan at different times. Much easier cleanup as well. Okay, so the herbs that I've chosen to use are oregano, basil, and some parsley. So I'm going to chop a little bit of this up. each one. And I like to add these to the vegetables as they cook, or right when they're finished cooking. And then also to the pasta when we mix it all together. Okay. Smells really, really good. Now it may seem like I'm cutting up a lot, but fresh herbs usually take about 2/3 more for a fresh herb than you do for a dry herb. So keep that in mind when you're purchasing your herbs. I'm just going to mix these all together because I'm going to dump them all in. I always like to have parsley on hand because it's such a nice, colorful addition to most, meals. Smells really nice too. Doesn't add too much of a flavor, honestly. Okay, and the other thing that we'll add is we have our vegetables for the second cook time. Our broccoli goes first, then the zucchini. Then we have mushrooms. And what I did is I like to purchase kind of a mixture of mushrooms. Let's see, this is shiitake, oyster, and I'm not sure what other that is. Just a blend of gourmet mushrooms. And we'll put those in also with the zucchini because they don't take as long to cook as well. And we'll get those chopped up. Because I don't think I need this many, but... Okay, so now we're going to saute them on the stove. Let's start sauteing. I'm going to turn my heat up to about medium to medium low. I'll take my pan just a minute or two to heat up. I'm going to start with a little olive oil. If I was using garlic, I would be sauteing the garlic right now, lightly. We're going to start with our broccoli. And let that cook for just a couple of minutes. I'm also going to add some red pepper flakes. Red pepper flakes will give this a little bit of punch and some added flavor. And putting them on a hot skillet makes the flavor really come out. So it's good. Okay, so as the broccoli starts to cook and soften, you'll notice that the color will get much deeper. A nice deep green. Kind of like grass in the summertime that's just been cut. Can you tell I'm thinking about spring? Okay, so then I'm going to add in our peppers and our carrots. Now, if you're in a hurry, you can always add, a few tablespoons of water and it kind of steams them in the pan. You can certainly do that. But it does add a lot of flavor to let them kind of brown and in the pan and kind of caramelize a little bit against the heat. It makes a nice flavor. So if you have the time, it's nice to let them cook slowly. Okay, so those have been cooking for a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add the zucchini and our mushrooms. Okay, so as you can see, when the vegetables are cooking and they're getting softer, the colors get more brilliant and they just look delicious. So these are almost done. I'm going to set those on a lower heat while we make the sauce for the pasta. So I'm going to set this back over here and let that finish up. Now in this pan, a little earlier, I went ahead and boiled the pasta, and it doesn't really matter what you pick. I chose, I think it's penne that we had in there, so that's what I used, but it doesn't really matter. So this is the pot that I used for the pasta. I'm just going to open a can of tomatoes. Now normally, if you wanted to, you could put a little oil in the bottom, which I always do anyway. And saute some onions and garlic until they're soft if you want to. That would make the sauce a little more flavorful. But like I said, we have people in our family that are sensitive, so we're not going to put those in. So I'm going to go straight to the tomatoes. And again, I'm going to add a little bit of red pepper flake because it gives it just a really nice, little bit of a heat in the back of the throat. Something that I like to add to every tomato sauce that I make, whether it's for vodka pasta or pasta primavera, or if it's a chili, I always like to add to a tomato sauce a little bit of tomato paste. It really gives a depth of flavor that you just can't get any other way, well, that I found. So, and I'm going to say in that 16-ounce can, I just add like a tablespoon. And I'm going to let that cook in there. I'm going to add a little bit of water and let that boil off just a little bit for a few minutes. And it really does make all the difference. I'm going to turn that heat up just a little bit. I picked a very small spoon for this job. I'm not sure why. So I'm going to switch. I have some herbs left over. So I'm going to dump those in there. And I already have oil in there. I like olive oil. You might be thinking, why did I do that? Because there were no onions or garlic in there. Because olive oil adds a nice flavor, and it also gives it a silkiness in the texture, and it helps it stick to the pasta. So that's why I do it. I can taste it. I like it. Usually for, I want to say this is 14.5 ounce can, maybe half a teaspoon of salt. I mean, to your liking, you know. And again, I'm using kosher salt because that's less processed. And, you know, I should really clarify that. When I say processed, what I mean is when you take a whole food and you add anything to it or you take anything from it, you are processing it in some way. And people can develop allergies and sensitivities to foods that are eaten, that are processed over, you know, that are eaten over and over and over again that are processed. That's why we want to stay away from it. So that's kosher salt. I also like to use sea salt as well. That's actually less processed than kosher salt. You know what I think it is? I think I've just gotten used to the texture of kosher salt, so I know how much to put in, and it's easily purchased and, you know, in bulk, so I think they're both good. Okay. Now I'm only making enough sauce just to cover a little bit of pasta. I think I put like a half a pound of pasta. What I like to do is put my vegetables in, put a little pasta in, and then put enough sauce to cover, you know, kind of to your taste. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think it needs a little bit more salt. I'm using black pepper for a little bit of kick. Okay. Okay, I'm going to let that simmer and then we'll put it all together. Okay, great. Let's put the dinner together. So here's the pasta I had made earlier. I'm just going to let's start with half of that and see how much we want in there. And the vegetables turned out great. They're beautiful. All right. Now for the sauce. And that smells good. And by the way, this is something you can make and eat hot or cold. And it's really good. Yeah, I don't like to overwhelm the vegetables with pasta or sauce because I think the vegetables are the feature in this dish. Okay. And then I like to top it with grana padano, which is my favorite kind of Parmesan cheese. It's Italian. Okay. And there we go. Dinner is served.